Things have just got quite interesting at Arsenal. And it's not because of how excited the fans are in terms of what we might achieve this season, what trophy or trophies we might collect come May. It's actually about what we're doing in game. And I've seen quite a change in Mikel Arteta's approach this season. I think he's improved in terms of his in-game management. I think he's definitely utilised the subs a hell of a lot better than he has in the last few seasons. I think that's mostly because he now trusts this squad. I don't think he trusts the likes of Raheem Sterling in the past. He definitely didn't look to trust the likes of Reece Nelson or Smith Rowe. He didn't look to trust Lokonga or Tavares or Fabio Vieira. But now he actually does trust the players that are on the bench, whether it be Mikel Merino, whether it be the likes of Christian Norgard of late, Lewis Skelly, Madueke, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, the list goes on. I think what we've seen from him has actually been quite an interesting change. In game, I see us change quite a bit in terms of our formation. Now, we were quite used to the 4-3-3. I think when he first came in, we didn't really have the players to do that. If you remember us winning the FA Cup, it was actually with three at the back with Luis, one more, and usually Kieran Tierney, when he was fit, playing at left-sided centre-back. And those kind of long balls from both Tierney and Luis was why we were successful with the pace of Aubameyang up front. Then we went quite quickly to a 4-3-3, and it kind of stayed at that throughout the kind of fighting for top four, finding ourselves in title races and taking Manchester City to the wire. It was always 4-3-3. And we changed that with Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard to then bringing in Declan Rice, who went alongside the 8 role with Partey in the 6 and Odegaard in more an advanced 10 role. I think this season he's reverted back to a 4-2-3-1, which we probably haven't seen, if we're realistic with each other, since the Arsene Wenger days or the Unai Emery days, where we had a Mesut Ozil who could play in that 10, and we had 2 holding midfielders with Granit Xhaka being one of them. We haven't really seen that work for quite some time, and I think this is the only side that I have seen Arsenal being able to play a 4-2-3-1 and it look comfortable with. And I think that we're now seeing in and out of possession different formations at Arsenal. 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, and 4-4-2, which is a formation I've loved over the years, but has never really been brought back to Arsenal really since the Highbury days, if I'm honest. Everybody used to play 4-4-2. Growing up in the 90s, everyone played 4-4-2, whether it was Andy Cole and Dwight York up front for Manchester United winning trophies, whether it was Henry and Bergkamp or Bergkamp and Ian Wright for Arsenal winning trophies, going into, let's be real, most of those teams of that era that were fighting at the top, whether it be Chelsea with Hasselbank and Johnson or Liverpool with Owen and Fowler, we used to always see 2 strikers. We haven't seen that for quite some time. Now, there are some teams that still do it, and actually in the Championship, from my understanding, there's a few and lower division clubs that do like 2 strikers. I've always liked 2 strikers. Those 2 strikers over the years have changed to one that plays off the striker and then one that actually plays deeper in the 10. And that is where it stayed for majority of the Premier League sides. What I've seen change at Arsenal is we've kind of done a little bit of everything. And I think that we've done it mostly in the games that we've been able to experiment, like against Wigan this weekend, against Kairat in the Champions League, where we're already through. I've seen us do bits and pieces in other areas against the likes of Portsmouth in the FA Cup and some of the Carabao Cup games alongside those European games we've been so good in. And when we've got ourselves in a position of either going through so we can do a little bit of a experiment for the 90 or 2 or 3-0 up, I've started to see us change things and tweak things. And I've been quite excited by it. I've quite enjoyed it. Now, let's start with Bukayo Saka. A lot of people I speak to and do content with have always said they see Bukayo Saka's long-term future in the middle. Now, I've never agreed with that because I always felt that he was so pivotal on that right-hand side and that if he was to go in any other position, it would be probably the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. But through the middle is something I've always wanted to see just because of the noise around me. Play him in the centre, play him in the 10. He can score many goals from that position. He's not just an assister. He can get in on goal and shoot. And I was very impressed with what I saw against Wigan. Now, okay, it's against Wigan, right? We annihilated them in the first half. But this is the time to test, and this is the time to experiment, and this is the time to see if it works. And you can't say that it didn't work. So we went into a position against Wigan where I thought, we've really gone attacking here. Now, it didn't really help when Calafiori got an injury in the warm-up because Lewis Skelly come into midfield, and I was really excited by that. He then had to go at left-back, which I was a bit disappointed about because I was willing to see what this guy was all about in midfield. We didn't get to see that. But we did get to see Saka come into the side, to have Norgard in the six with Saka and Eze either side. And I really liked it, guys. I really liked it. Madueke, Martinelli, and Jesus all getting onto the score sheet. Eze with a couple of assists. And Bukayo Saka involved in most of things that was good in the first half hour of the game. I really liked it. Now, I don't think you can do that against all the opposition in the Premier League because we're in a trouble situation where they look like they might be going down from their league. I do think that it was the time to do it. And I was very happy that he did that. And that was why I wanted to bring this up, because I do feel like there is a new potential role for Bukayo Saka if we needed to look at that as a potential scenario. At the moment, in that 10 position, Havertz people want, he's now injured. Ødegaard people don't want, his performance hasn't been great, and he's also got an injury knock. Marino's out injured for the majority of the season. Who else can play there? You've really got Eze or bringing in Ethan Nwaneri, who's, I don't believe, can be recalled back from loan. So when I look now, it's Eze or bust. Now, he played really well against Wigan and I think deserves the nod in the next game. However, there's an opportunity to see what Saka can do in this role. And I just wanted to bring up a tactics board and have a little bit of a look about what I saw happening and what I think could be happening in the future for Arsenal. And I do think that it's key to look at this and see where we're at. Now, I don't know what people's thoughts are on this. I genuinely don't know if people like what they see here or if they do think that it's, a potential for us to have a look more potentially at where we can go. Let me bring it up a little bit more, because zoom in a little bit more, because it'll make it easier for you guys to see. So look, we all know this is the formation we're probably going to go with. And we all know when everybody's fit, it's probably going to be a team similar to this, right? It probably is going to be. We're going to have Raya, we're going to have Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori. We're going to have Rice and Zubimendi. I've gone with Ødegaard because I do believe when everyone's fit, he's probably going to pick his captain. Trossard seems to get the nod on the left, Saka on the right, and Gyökeres at the moment up top. Now, it might be that people want to see someone different in this 11, but just go with me for now. That's what I think the 11 would probably be if everybody was fit. Now, this is absolutely fine, and this is a position that I think we're probably strongest at, a formation that we've seen for quite some time this season. And it's one that I think can change a bit. Now, when we're in possession and we start the game, I think we're going to start off like this. He wants Rice and Zubimendi dominating the midfield. He wants Ødegaard to be that kind of 10 creator that can come over, drift from the left and drift from the right, which is fine. We've got Trossard that normally cuts inside on his right foot, and we've got Saka that normally cuts inside on his left foot. No problems here whatsoever so far. In game, I actually think we might see something a little bit different. And what we might see when the subs come on is a change in formation. Now, we did see against West Ham and Brentford, until Martin Ødegaard got injured, we saw Martin Ødegaard come over to this right-hand side in an attacking right-hand side 8. Rice sitting deep, Zubimendi dropped, and then, of course, Eze coming in to play that kind of attacking 8 on the left-hand side. Now, we didn't see it work a lot because Ødegaard was injured. Now, what we did see against Wigan with the injured Ødegaard was Saka coming into that role and then Madueke coming on the right-hand side. Now, that's something that I was a bit shocked about when I saw. I went down to the concourse and I thought, I can't work out what's happened here. Lewis Skelly was at left-back at the time instead of Calafiori, and that was what we'd went with. Norgard was obviously in the Rice position, but what was really interesting for me was seeing Saka playing over here in the attacking 10, so to call it, and Eze playing in front of the 6 as a kind of attacking 8. Now, I don't really like Eze playing deep, but he didn't really need to play too deep against Wigan because obviously we were so superior to them that it just wasn't really a, it wasn't really a contest, particularly in the first half hour, without being too disrespectful. But I expected it to be a comfortable game for Arsenal. I didn't expect it to be that comfortable after 30 minutes. But I really liked the way these two worked. And I thought, hang on a minute, we're kind of looking here now at a 4-3-3. But probably you could push it to say that it's a 4-1-2-3 because you've got that holding midfielder who in this case on the screen is Rice, but has sometimes been Norgard or even Zubimendi. They can all play that role. And that just gives us more ability and more attacking thrive going forward, which is something that I think Arsenal fans have all wanted to see or has all questioned whether this could be the case to see. I've been a big fan, I've got to be honest, of what I saw. And I think Mikel Arteta deserves credit for chopping and changing that up. Now, people might ask, what do you mean by the Saka role? Well, Saka's been asked to come inside He's also been asked to utilise the position similarly to the right-hand side, but he's getting in chances here. Normally, Saka's over here crossing in the ball, which is fine because he's got good ability to assist. But what about if times you've seen him cut into this position here and shoot and score? Well, if he's already there, he hasn't got to beat his man. If you're looking at players like Rice with the ball, going to passing triangles to Eze giving the ball to Saka in this position, Saka's got the chance of shooting and scoring. So Saka around here is good. I can understand why you might not want Saka over here because he has just literally got his left foot to cross it in. Saka on the right-hand side, we've seen before, cutting in and crossing it. But actually, if he's here, he's got a great chance of actually scoring a hell of a lot more goals, which is something I don't think Saka's done enough this season. I think he's got 4 goals and a few assists. Not had the best of seasons. I mean, some would say that's okay still, but not for me. Saka's numbers need to be doubled, maybe even triple that now, in my opinion. When I look at what Saka could do, I'm quite excited by that role. I've always liked the sound of Eze here. I think against Brentford, against Wolves at home, against West Ham at home, I could understand why he was trying Eze alongside Odegaard in this role here, because I do think, although I don't like seeing Eze back here, I want Eze around this space here, similarly to where Saka was shooting, where I just explained. Eze, likewise, I want him here. I don't really want Eze dropping any deeper than that, if I'm honest, because he's the guy that once the ball gets delivered and he's in here with the ball, he's got so many options. Trossard, he's got Gyökeres 1-2. He's got Saka alongside him 1-2. He could spread the ball over to Madueke, who can then cross to Gyökeres. Or if he wants to do 1-2s, he can do that. For me, Eze has always been there for me in my head. Centrally, I like him, but I think if I could have a perfect kind of position for him, it probably would be that left attacking midfield role. Not wing. I don't want him wing. I don't really like him there. Some people think he could do a job there. I'm not so sure. But this Saka role was the interesting one for me. Now, we look at the subs that we've got to use on the bench. There's so many that we could actually use. But I've seen something quite interesting. Let's bring Zubimendi back in with Rice. Let's go back to what we expect the majority of our season to look like. Okay, let's just keep Eze there for the minute. I don't really care if it's Eze or Odegaard. But we have seen over the last few Havertz playing in this role. And what's been really interesting for me is Havertz has been great in this role, but actually the opposition have allowed, because of us being so good and being better than them, it's actually allowed for us to go old school. And I've kind of seen this, which is something I did not expect. And I'll be honest with you guys, didn't want to see. Kai Havertz and Gyökeres to me are very good footballers. I've got nothing against either of them. But really and truly, they're both quite different. Gyökeres is a good footballer in terms of he's there in the right place at the right time. That's why he scored 100 goals. He hasn't always done it for Arsenal, but when he has been there at the right time, he's there to tap it home. Kai Havertz, I don't think he's that type of striker. He's one that can play in more of a off-the-striker role. He can play centrally in the 10, but when he's occupied up top, he can also do that job. I actually think he's probably best just off of the striker. And I think that's why we saw Havertz and Gyökeres linking up better than I ever imagined. Arsenal going back to 4-4-2 in and out of possession? Really? I never thought Mikel Arteta would do that. But we saw it. And we even saw it last night. There was a time in the game last night where actually, due to Havertz's injury, it was Jesus that started and Gyökeres came on. And they started up front together in that last second half. And I'm thinking, we've gone 4-4-2 here. Now, last night it was a few different positions, so maybe it will confuse people, and maybe I should have put last time's team out, if I'm honest, looking at things again. But just imagine that Rice and Zubimendi are actually Norgard in midfield, not Rice, because obviously he played. But Jesus, he was kind of playing in this role. And then towards the last 20 minutes, I said to the boys, we've gone 4-4-2 with Gyökeres and Jesus here now. Now, it wasn't all the time. It wasn't for the 90 minutes, of course, right? But if you go back and look at the game, Gyökeres and Jesus are so close to each other. They're pretty much playing up top together. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I liked it. I liked it. And we're in a position now where we're so strong in terms of our strength in depth that I haven't even given you the other possibilities yet. If Saka isn't about, you can see Madueke coming in. If Odegaard wants to play in that 10, then he can play in the 10 and you can drop Jesus. If Havertz wants to play up top instead of Gyökeres, that's a sub you can make. Eze is still there to play alongside Odegaard, as we've seen, and you can take off a Zubimendi for rest. Rice goes into that 6, Eza back into that 8, and Erdegaard in that attacking 10. Of course, we've still got Martinelli that can come on for Trossard. You've also got, if you really want to, Marino who can play in these roles. Maybe you can go up top for Kai Havertz if you did want to at some stage. We've still got the likes, if you wanted to drop an Eze, of Lewis Skelly that can come into midfield alongside Declan Rice. This is what we've got, people. This is why it's so impressive at the moment. This is why I've been so happy to see Arsenal with a squad that they can use to compete on all four fronts. And I've been very impressed by what I've seen from the rotation of Mikel Arteta. You could probably say Norgard could have played more football by now, if you're nitpicking. You could probably say Lewis Skelly could have been utilised in midfield to give Rice and Supermendi more of a rest alongside Norgard coming in. Maybe they could have played together, which is actually the two that he picked last night, if it wasn't for Calafiori's injury. You might be able to say that we could have treated Ethan Nwaneri better with some minutes and he shouldn't have gone out on loan. But other than that, and that's maybe being fussy and picky and nitpicking, yeah, I'm quite happy. I was fine with the team. How many times have we gone into a Carabao Cup game or an FA Cup game and we're like, oh, really? Why is he playing Rob Holding, man? Why is Reece Nelson starting? Why has he got Eddie Nketiah up front? Why is Fabio Vieira in the middle? What have we got Lokonga and Tavares starting for? How many times did we do that? So for those that said it's not Mikel Arteta, it's the players, they did have an element of that. I don't believe that's the excuse we didn't win trophies by now, but I do think that there is a question mark over, were we good enough to compete back then for the likes of the trophies? I think we were good enough to win the league. I don't think we were good enough to compete on all four fronts, and I think we are now. I look at where we are in the position of the Premier League, and I think we should win the league from here with the squad we've got. I look at our position in the Cup final, and I know it's a roll of the dice and it's 50-50, but I truly believe we're better than Man City, so I think we should win that. Then I look at the FA Cup. We find out later on what you get in the draw, but really and truly, other than Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea and Newcastle, I think everybody else is pretty much beatable. So if you avoid those four in the next round, I expect to see Arsenal progress into the deeper stages again. And if I look at the favourites right now, it's Arsenal and Man City. So I expect Arsenal to get to the semis or the final of that, as long as we don't bump into Man City, who I think could beat you at any point because they're a good side. I think we can get to the final of that, which is mad to say. And then, of course, you roll the dice in the Champions League. It's far too early for me yet. We don't know who's gone through in their qualifiers yet. We don't know what's happening in the next round yet. But from what the journey looks like it could be, I think we should go into the deep stages of that as well. And the only reason I think that is not because we're Arsenal and I don't care what team you put out. We're Arsenal, we go through. It ain't that. It's the squad is actually good enough to do that. The squad is strong enough. It has depth. It doesn't matter if you've got a suspension or an injury anymore. How many times did Saliba go down and we all rolled our eyes? That's us done. Gabriel even. Now we've got Mosquera and Nketiah that can come in. Lewis Skelly's hardly played at left back when needed to be called upon. Ben White hasn't really got enough minutes and should have probably deserved more. Norgard and Ethan Nwaneri didn't get enough minutes this season. One of them's gone back out on loan. We've still got them there. Madueke we haven't mentioned as much. He's coming in now. Martinelli and Trossard are still competing with who can start up front and that on that left. And then on up front, Jesus, Havertz, Marino, Gyökeres, take your pick. They've all had a go there. This is a squad that needs to go and win silverware, guys. And I'm talking trophies, not one trophy and we're done. Let's see what we do come May. Have we got the bottle? I hope we can handle the pressure. Do me a favor, hit like, people. We're very close to that 60K. Make sure you hit subscribe and I'll see you next time.